Cool. So tables. Okay. First thing I always do, and I'm going to do the example of the resume because that's how we did it initially. I always change my margins because by default the margins are meant for like writing a report.
Mm-hmm.
But with a resume or something like that, it is come on. It's important to fit as much crap on one page as you can, because if you can avoid 2 pages, you do. Nobody wants a resume that's 2 pages if they can avoid it. So I always do the margins first, and that's because once you've done the tables, if you then change the margins, then your tables will like shift rather than stretching to fill the page. You always want to do your margins first.
Okay.
Okay. Once that's done, there's a table drop down. You insert a table, and you can do as many vertical columns as you want, but I tend to start with 1.
Okay.
And there's a reason for that. Okay? So you have to determine how many individual cells you want going across for whatever your table is. Again, for the resume, I'm assuming we want 2, so it does them in.
Okay.
I try to figure what my longest word is. So if I'm doing like objectives, skills, education,
what are the
job history.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever the case is, how you're going to phrase it, you do that. Choose the appropriate sizes that you want them to be when it comes down to it. Bold them appropriately. Do ever what's necessary. Okay? Then, when you right-click inside of the table, there's a table properties option. And that's where you can do the cell padding. So if you wanted to do it with like 0 cell padding or whatever, change it there, hit OK. The problem is that changes it for that one. It doesn't change it for the other cell. And this is why I always start with 2 cells, because then all you have to do is set it to 0 in those 2 cells, and then you can add rows underneath it, and it's going to copy it. Okay. From within that table properties thing, you can also choose if you want it to be top aligned or if you want it to be centered within the cell vertically, or if you want it to be left, center, right within a cell or whatever. This is where everything gets sort of set up. And this left indent, you don't have to change the padding. You can just change how far it bumps in from the left on one of those. And so that can be beneficial so that you can still have no top and bottom padding, or even on the right, it goes all the way up to the right edge. But you can separate them out by adding like a little bit of padding for like a 1/4 inch or something, whatever you want to do.
Cool.
So the one thing to be super careful of on this is you can give a column width on here for how big you want the column to be. The problem with that is if I say I want it to be 1 inch, oh no, it did it right. Okay, so that works out totally fine if you want to declare how big this is by.
This is in landscape right now.
Oh, is it?
Yes, it accidentally changed to landscape, I think. And so that could be the reason.
Portrait. Okay. That's still fine.
Okay.
It was smart about it. Sometimes what happens is when you change like the size of these, and I'll play with this one to see if this does it. If I do this one with a column width of whatever, it shrinks it down from the edge rather than taking this line and sliding it accordingly in order to do it. So you have to be careful. So I actually, really prefer not using these to declare the column width and instead grabbing this and sliding it accordingly. But when you fill in something like all of these things, you can determine how much space you want to have after it left for the rest of your content here. Then you can get rid of the rest of this, and now you've got your first one of these here. My major objectives are such and such. Whatever. Okay. So then, since we're copying the thing that we did earlier, the resume, I tend to insert a horizontal line, and then I grab the entire table, copy it, go down a line, and paste it.
Okay.
And you can then figure out how you need to deal with the spacing between them and padding and whatever the case is. Once this is here, you may know that for this one, because this is going to be, let's just assume, job history, that you're going to need multiple columns for 4 jobs. So you can actually just insert row below, automatically does the spacing the same. Insert row below, automatically does the spacing the same. Insert row below. And then if underneath this for education, you know that you're going to need 2 columns. Once you've got this one all filled out, you copy this one, you do the horizontal line, you paste in the table, and then you can just grab these 2 columns like this, and you can delete the 2 rows, and then you can just do education or whatever.
Okay.
So, and then fill everything in accordingly. So it gets a little bit tricky sometimes in tables, because if you're outside of a table and you hit tab, it's going to put in an appropriate tab space. If you're inside of a table and you hit tab, it's going to bump you down to the next cell. It's going to tabulate you between the cells. So you have to start learning how to use like this indent to put an indent inside of it if you want to have those things. If you decide that it's necessary in one of them to do like a small indent, like I was showing you earlier, you can do the table properties, and then you can do a left indent of like, you know, 1/5 of an inch. Oh, and that actually moves the table that far. Oh. Well, I'm glad we showed that off anyway, even though that wasn't what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So, but that's good to know. So, once you have everything filled in, and I'm just going to quickly... Then you just right-click on the table and go back to those properties. Set the table border to 0 point, and that's when it gets rid of all the borders, and then everything is sort of aligned and arranged how it should be.
Perfect.
And you can still edit it and fill it in here, but it's easier to get everything edited and organized with the lines there. And then once it's all taken care of, just change it to the 0 point stuff or whatever.
Okay.
And depending on who you are and how you set stuff up, like on this, if you keep the padding in it or, you know, organize it a certain way, in the table properties you can say, like in this cell on the background color, I want to have this super light gray. And then you can do that thing where you like separate things out by having the colors or whatever.
I like that.
So it depends on how you want to end up organizing things to accomplish your goal. So I hate having to make multiple tables. So I make them once, copy them, paste them, and they're always the same. This line is at exactly the same distance where it would be on the other ones, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's it.
Yeah,
tables are super easy once you learn them.
Yeah, for sure.
You just have to learn how to be flexible with them and get them all taken care of. They're more flexible in Word as opposed to like Google Docs, because in Word you can merge cells like you can in Excel, or you can say that you want to have a border on the bottom of a table or on the bottom of a cell, but not on the left, top, or right of a cell. Google Docs doesn't let you do that. It just gets too complicated and too sticky.
But same concept.
But it's the same concept in Word.
You still go to tables and table.
Yeah, and you can right-click inside of it and do table properties. In Word, it's more flexible for how you can control the padding inside of it and all of those details. But it's the same concept. But I always prefer using Google Docs when I can, and it's only because accessibility, right? With my resume, it's in Google Docs. So if anyone ever says, can I get a copy of your resume? If I'm at work, I can print it out. If I'm at home, I can print it out. If I'm at my friend's house, I can print it out. If I don't have a printer, I can print it to PDF, and then I can email it to someone. But Google Docs is just so good.